Florida is not a place that comes to mind when people think of hunting. People often think of Texas or Alabama, but for me, Florida with its vast swamps, dense palm trees, and wild vegetation is a paradise for hunters who love the harshness and drama. Especially when sitting in a buggy, you will feel like all the hunting trips are within your reach. As you can see, this buggy has no doors, is simply designed with a sturdy steel frame, large spiked wheels, and a gun mount mounted in front of the handlebars. The surrounding space was quiet, only the buzzing of insects and the steady sound of the engine underfoot. Suddenly, the sound of dogs barking rang out. A few dozen meters away from us was a large wild boar surrounded by a pack of dogs. The buggy stopped. I aimed carefully, determined the position, and fired. A loud explosion tore through the quiet air. The wild boar paused for a second and then crashed down. Although medium-sized, this wild boar was our first trophy. We continued deeper into the swamp. The place was overgrown with wild palms and low bushes. The buggy couldn't go very fast. I switched to slow mode and followed every movement of the hounds. Suddenly, several wild boars, all of them huge, rushed out from the bushes. Without thinking, we opened fire simultaneously. Perhaps frightened by the sound of the engine, they ran very fast, gradually splitting up, each running in a different direction. I continued south, where the terrain was flat and close to the grazing land, where wild boars often congregated because there was plenty of food. The car moved slowly, and at this time, we felt the cool summer breeze dispelling the heat. He spotted a herd of wild boars drinking at a small water hole on the edge of the forest. Without alerting the herd, we got out of the car and moved to a clearing about 50 meters from the water hole. Everything was quiet and peaceful. We aimed at the herd of pigs, targeting the largest ones. After an explosion, the largest wild boar fell down and the rest scattered. After harvesting the wild boars that were shot, we continued moving on the buggy. It was already afternoon. Our dogs also discovered the wild boar and tried to chase it. This time, one of our friends did not use a gun to take down the wild boar. He came up with the bold idea of catching the wild boar with his hands. Yes, you may find this sight hard to come by, but in some Florida swamps, it is not an uncommon sight. After an exciting session of catching wild boars with our bare hands, we continued to move on the buggy and search for wild boars. Wild hog hunting in Florida is not for the faint of heart. The sun, the bugs, the dirt, and the risk of a pig attack. But every trip is a challenge, a game between human bravery and the wild wisdom of nature. I drove back, my face and hands sunburned, my shirt covered in dust and sweat. The scratches from the bushes, the stinging mosquito bites, it was all worth it. I put down the gun, cleaned the barrel, and sat in the middle of the field in the hot sun, but at peace. our hunting experience in the swamp has come to an end. How do you feel about today's video? Leave your comments below to let us know. Don't forget to like and subscribe to receive the latest notifications. I never thought that one day I would be standing in the middle of a deep French forest, rifle in hand, listening to the wind whistling through the ancient oaks, and my heart pounding as the heavy footsteps of wild boar echoed in the distance. The area where we hunted was a wild forest of the Cévennes, a mountainous corner of the Massif. Of course, the hunt is not for fun, but it is the way we and the farmers protect their farms. We started our day early in the morning before the sun rose and joined a hunting party of 6 locals, men who were all too familiar with the jungle, hunting dogs, and the silence of nature. We split into 3 groups, each a few hundred meters apart. This was an area where wild boars often passed through early in the morning. I held my gun tightly, not because of fear, but because I felt so small in the vastness of nature. To communicate easily, we used walkie-talkies. On the walkie-talkie, a voice said, "Watch out, there's a big one heading south. It just moved over there." My heart started pounding harder. Indeed, a wild boar appeared. It did not know that around it, we were holding guns, waiting for the opportunity to take it down. A gunshot rang out, tearing the quiet atmosphere apart, and the boar collapsed on the spot. Well, a friend named Peter shot it down. I heard he was very experienced in hunting wild boars. We continued to ambush in the same position. About 20 minutes later, I heard a strange noise, like heavy, regular footsteps stepping on dry leaves. And then a larger wild boar appeared. The gunshots were deafening in the middle of the forest. The pig screamed and rushed into the woods like a whirlwind. I didn't know if I hit it or not, but I felt my heart pounding so hard it felt like it was going to burst out of my chest. After shooting down a few wild boars, we didn't see any more wild boars. It seemed like they heard the gunshots and moved to another area. We also decided to change the location of the wild boar ambush. The pigs also often travel through this trail, as it is near the pasture next to the farm, Pierre told us. Sure enough, after just a few minutes of waiting, a bushy black-gray boar slowly emerged from the bushes, about 30 meters away from me. I shot and killed it. It was a thrilling and exciting feeling to kill a wild boar, but I didn't feel happy about it. A few minutes later, I got a signal. There were some wild boars moving towards me. This time, I didn't feel nervous anymore, but was ready to hold my gun firmly. Pierre says the forest is a great place for wild boar to breed, and despite weekly and monthly hunts, the population has not dwindled. In the afternoon, Pierre signaled us to move gradually towards the edge of the forest to return before dark. A dark-haired wild boar appeared. It was huge. Without letting the wild boar escape, we quickly killed it. With such a large size, it must have foraged on the farm many times. That afternoon, we returned to the hunting lodge, where a fire was burning and a large pot of stew was boiling. Wild boar was butchered in the woods, the best part saved for dinner. Red wine was poured into glasses, laughter rang out, and stories old and new intertwined by the firelight. I recounted the shooting, and they shared their experiences of being chased by wild boars. "It's not a game," Pierre said. "It's something we have to do if we don't want to get hurt." The journey to hunt wild boar in the deep forest of France has come to an end. How do you feel? Leave your comments below to let us know. Don't forget to like and subscribe to receive the latest notifications. In Bulgaria, particularly in the temperate forest regions interspersed with grasslands and farms in the north, wild boars have long been a source of distress for the local population. Not only do they destroy crops, but they also cause severe damage to the natural ecosystem. The increasingly serious situation has forced locals to resort to extreme measures, such as setting up electric fences around their gardens, or even hiring professional hunting teams to track and trap the wild boars. Despite trying many methods, the wild boar population here has never shown a significant decline. And so today, once again, we pick up our rifles and head out to hunt. After a quick breakfast, we led the hunting dogs around the back of the farm. Freshly harvested cornfields are always a feast that lures the wild boars down from the hills. I figured this was a prime spot for an ambush, surely a big catch today. Sure enough, less than half an hour into our wait, a large herd of boars suddenly burst out from a patch of dry corn. Excited, I couldn't help myself. I raised my rifle and pulled the trigger. The startled herd scattered across the field. The biggest, fattest one appeared to be hit, injured, and lagging behind. The hounds quickly surrounded it, leaving it no chance to escape. At that point, all I had to do was walk over and finish the job with one clean shot. Our first trophy of the day was in hand. After that thrilling encounter, we moved to the other side of the field. This area hadn't been harvested yet. Lush green grass stretched out to the horizon. With such clear visibility, it was ideal for another ambush. From a raised mound, I scanned the area and quickly spotted a new target. I raised my rifle, calmly tracked its movement, waited for the perfect moment, and fired. The bullet hit the hind leg. The boar slid across the grass and came to a stop. Success after success kept the whole team energized. Even though it was nearly noon and the sun was beating down on the field, no one felt tired. This time, we decided to hide behind a corn bush. Jake and I got into position, gripping our rifles tightly and waiting patiently. There it was, a fat wild boar slowly wandered in less than 10 meters from our spot. It paused, seemingly sensing danger from the barrel aimed straight at it. But we didn't waste a second. A few rapid shots rang out. The boar was hit, but still tried to flee. I couldn't let it escape. I quickly fired a few more rounds, and finally it collapsed in the middle of the field. What unfolded before me was an astonishing sight. A herd of several dozen wild boars stormed past like a black whirlwind, kicking up clouds of dust and leaving behind that pungent, musky scent of the wild. Gunfire erupted across the field, and in the chaos, a few boars didn't make it out. Early in the afternoon, we split up to scout more targets. I rode my motorbike around the wheat fields. Suddenly, a dark figure moved among crops. I hit the throttle and gave chase. But in my excitement, I rushed it. I tried firing one-handed while riding and kept missing. By the time I stopped the bike, the boar had vanished, leaving me frustrated but still adrenaline charged. Just when we thought the hunt was over, Jake and I were driving back to base when, out of nowhere, a pitch-black boar dashed across the road ahead. Instinct kicked in. We stopped and raised our rifles. Jake fired first, but missed. I fired right after, trying to keep steady. This time, the shot landed. The boar flipped over and thrashed about at the field's edge. The golden light of sunset stretched across the distant treetops. We sat by the truck, laughing and chatting. More boars had been taken down, but what lingered most were the heart-pounding chases, the decisive shots, and even the near misses across the wild plains.
The roar of the engine tore through the quiet atmosphere of the vast grasslands. The helicopter soared across the field. Below, the wild boars ran away in panic, their black bodies trying to hide in the dense bushes. I held my breath, my finger tightening on the trigger. In just a few seconds, one of the giant pigs will become the first target in this hunt. Welcome to the wild boar hunting by helicopter. Don't mistake wild boars for just a pitiful animal. In many places around the world, especially in the US and Australia, they have become a serious threat to agriculture and ecosystems. Therefore, the government has licensed wild boar hunting by helicopter to control their increasingly explosive numbers. But is this method really effective? This video is the answer. From the sky, the chaotic scene is clearly visible. When the sound of the helicopter roared, the herd of pigs immediately panicked, hastily looking for a way to escape. They rushed like crazy into the nearby dry forest, trying to take advantage of the complex terrain to hide. The pilot quickly lowered the altitude, flying the helicopter right over the herd of pigs. The strong wind from the propellers stirred up dust. In the middle of the swaying air, I held my breath, focusing on the target. The first target was the largest wild boar in the herd. I squeezed the trigger. A loud bang rang out. The bullet hit the animal's shoulder, causing it to stagger and collapse on the dry ground. The remaining pigs were even more panicked. I tried to aim at another pig in the chaotic crowd, but in just a split second, the whole herd had disappeared behind the dense vegetation. I couldn't let them get too far. I signaled the pilot to continue the pursuit. The helicopter changed direction, circling over the forest, ready for another thrilling chase. While flying along the forest, we suddenly discovered another herd of wild boars hiding under the dense trees. Without hesitation, I raised my gun and aimed straight at the target. A loud bang rang out, but the bullet missed. The male boar was startled and let out a fierce roar, then rushed faster through the dry bushes. Wild boars were already agile, now stimulated by the sound of gunfire, becoming even more elusive. From above, with the helicopter constantly moving, accurate aiming was a real challenge, requiring perfect gun control and sniper experience. Meanwhile, the remaining wild boars had scattered in many directions. I quickly memorized their paths, assigned formations, and began a new pursuit. The goal this time was to completely eliminate the threat, ensuring that the area around the farm was free of any saboteurs. The helicopter gradually descended as we entered the dense grass where the surviving wild boars were hiding. We glided close to the treetops, eyes carefully observing every bush. As expected, the noise of the helicopter engine made the pigs unable to bear it any longer. They panicked and rushed out of their shelter, scattering across the open space, trying to find a way to escape. At that moment, I opened fire. Each shot rang out decisively, without a second of hesitation. Each shot was accurate, taking down each one while they were still trying to escape. In just 3 minutes, 5 more wild pigs had collapsed on the ground, ending their hopeless escape. We were about to end our hunt after a long day of chasing, but at this moment, an unexpected sight appeared before our eyes. A herd of giant wild boars gathered in the middle of the clearing. Seeing this as a good opportunity, the pilot immediately lowered the altitude, keeping the helicopter stable. I quickly got into position. A precise shot rang out. The bullet pinned straight to the weak point, causing it to collapse immediately. The other wild boars immediately panicked. They tried to find a way to escape, but the open terrain made all efforts hopeless. There were no more trees to hide in, no more bushes to hide in. They were completely exposed under the sights. Taking advantage of the situation, my teammates and I continuously opened fire. One by one, they were taken down. Within just 10 minutes, the entire herd of wild boars was destroyed, marking a decisive end to the hunt. At the end of the trip, the number of wild boars destroyed was higher than expected, helping the farm avoid a serious destructive season. Did this hunting trip make you feel excited? Leave your comments in the comment section, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to watch more dramatic hunts.
The people of Lorraine, northeastern France, are all too familiar with the sight of wild boars being hunted. For them, wild boars are not ordinary wild animals. They are agricultural destroyers and carriers of dangerous diseases for livestock. Today, we, the people with the mission of controlling wild boars, carried out a large-scale sweep in the Darney Forest and exterminated a large number of harmful wild boars. In the vast forest, we split into small groups to patrol the wild boar tracks. While moving slowly, my friend Daniel stopped and whispered, "It seems like they are coming." Just a few seconds later, a herd of wild boars appeared just a few meters away from us. I quickly raised my gun and fired at the herd of wild boars. The sound of the gunshots seemed to tear the quiet atmosphere apart. Everything happened so quickly that I didn't know how many shots I fired. When the gunfire stopped, we saw several wild boars had been killed, including a very large one. Daniel guessed that it must have weighed more than 100 kilograms. Wild boars usually live in herds of up to dozens. Looking at such a large herd of wild boars, we were both excited and nervous. The shots rang out like thunder. The wild boars that were hit lay down. The others tried to run away from the danger zone. Facing such a large herd of wild boars, it was difficult for us to accurately aim at each one, but with continuous shots, we were still able to kill more wild boars. In these vast hunting grounds, we could not do without the companionship of brave hunting dogs. Their task was to track the prey and chase it until it was exhausted. We often let the dogs roam freely in the forest, but we still had to listen for sounds to detect their location. There's a dog barking nearby. "Come on, buddy," Daniel said, walking quickly ahead, with us following closely behind him. "Oh my God, a giant wild boar," he exclaimed. The wild boar seemed to be exhausted, but it still aggressively tried to attack us. But I shot it down immediately. The sweep was scheduled to last a day. We took a short lunch break and then resumed the search. The dogs seemed tireless as they chased the boar back in our direction. Oh, it was a very large adult wild boar. It ran past us and was shot down by Daniel. Hit by a bullet, the wild boar rolled down the mountainside, and my other two teammates helped pull it up. With such a large body, it must have invaded the farmer's farm many times. By the afternoon, we did not encounter any other large herds of wild boar, only individual pigs moving about. Perhaps the gunfire in the morning caused them to disperse or move to other areas. Although we did not encounter large herds of wild boars, we still managed to kill a few wild boars if they strayed. Indeed, we do not always successfully kill a wild boar with just one shot. This requires a lot of skill and experience because wild boars are very fast. Aiming at the right position is not easy. Partly, it also depends on the equipment such as the scope and the type of gun you use. In the late afternoon, we gradually moved towards the assembly area. We discovered a herd of wild boars busy foraging in an empty area. Immediately, the whole team fell silent and held their guns, preparing to kill the wild boars. We aimed at the biggest wild boar. After a bang, the wild boar fell down. We were quite surprised that the spoils of the day were so big. We collect wild boar and gather it at the final location. People with experience in handling wild boar meat will process it, and we will enjoy delicious grilled wild boar meat with a glass of premium vodka. Our journey is over. Thank you all for following. Please like and subscribe to receive the latest notifications.